welcome to the coaching circle. I'm super excited for this episode because today we're going to be talking about breathing and posture and its links to health. And as always, this is a topic that I'm very interested in. So it's no surprise that I ran into today's guest just the other day and we were having this conversation, which prompted me to invite her on to the podcast to talk about this in depth. So today's guest, Cherie Noble, specializes in supporting individuals, business owners, and their teams to reconnect with their bodies and reclaim their energy and build sustainable well-being. Now, we're all about that. Now, Cherie's been at this for a while. She's got almost 2 decades of experience as an accredited exercise physiologist. She spent half of that time lecturing and tutoring at the University of South Australia, and she's developed a very intuitively guided, holistic, individualized approach, but it is still very much grounded by evidence-based practice. And as she was telling me, she loves all the science stuff. So this is brilliant. I'm very excited. Cherie's also specialized in training and involvement in chronic pain, dealing with complex systems, and more recently, understanding neurodivergence. So welcome to the coaching circle, Cherie Noble.
Thank you so much for having me, Tony. It's such a pleasure to be here and talking about lots of things that I'm passionate about. It was awesome running into you the other day.
Yes, I love this. As you know, most people know, I'm often out and about at a lot of events. I don't feel like it's a lot, but I think because I work at from home, like I only go out of the house a couple of times a week. But it seems like I'm out all the time to other people. But I love it because of who that I ran into. And we were just saying off air that we haven't actually caught up or had a chat for quite some times, but we've always been in each other's kind of peripheral. So it was divine timing, I think, Cherie, that we run into each other the other day. So, of course, the question that I want to start with, because I always love to know a bit of the backstory about why people do what they do and how they got into it. So, can you tell us a little bit about what led you to start your business and why what you do is important to you?
Yeah, thank you. My story is a bit of a long one, but I'll try and summarize it quickly. I actually started in corporate, so I wanted to be an accountant when I was. Who wants to be an accountant? But obviously, I
Oh, I
did.
did.
Yeah,
I
I
did
wanted to be an
accounting
accountant.
training.
Yep, I've got a diploma in accounting, and then went into banking, and then went into finance and insurance, and was always fit and liked to move. And one day I just looked around at everyone and I was like, wow, you people actually need help. Like, you're really unfit and unhealthy, and we've got some big issues here. So then I went and studied my degree, and then obviously worked at the university, and did some private practice. So I've done sort of private practice, community settings, hospital work. I've been a jack of all trades, master of none, until I found the university, and then did a lot of work with setting up clinics and establishing the clinical Bachelor of Clinical Exercise Physiology there, and taught students there. But then something, about 2018, I think it was, I went on a different sort of pathway where I thought, actually, I really want to engage back with the public and see people, and my time was done there. And in my time, I specialize in movement. Obviously, that's my background. But over time and working with clients, as you probably know as well, Tony, is you realize that it's a lot more complex and it's a lot bigger. And there's so many moving parts to wellness and well-being and health. And that really broadened my perspective and opened my eyes to, what it takes to allow someone to navigate that journey and really, really get to the crux and root cause of problems, and what we can do to alleviate some of these things and help people move forward. So it's been a long, winding path, but I just love working with people and enjoy every minute of it. And just on that, like when I studied, way back when I studied, the physiology was what really got me, and still does get me excited. So yes, I like movement and body parts, but it's actually the internal systems and the invisible stuff that we can't see and take for granted. There's gold there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, Cherie, I liked what you said then about being a jack of all trades and master of none, because there's actually another like verse to that. So it's jack of all trades, master of none, but oftentimes it's better than master of one. And I think this is a thing that, for so long, like I didn't always know that. And it used to be like a thing where people go, oh, jack of all trades, master of none, as if like it was a bad thing. But I actually think that the people that I come across that have the most experience and really help people absolutely are a jack of all trades. And it's better than just mastering one because, like you were saying, you get to know all different parts, like in a multi-dimensional kind of way, that all comes into that unique way that, like you said, you intuitively, help people. Doesn't come out of a textbook.
Absolutely not. No, we
Yeah.
need the knowledge as the foundation. And it's funny that you say that because there's a difference between skill and knowledge and wisdom.
Mm.
And I think it's with experience and this openness to explore so many things and put it into practice. That's where wisdom comes, and that's where we can make real change.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So, and what else is funny? I didn't realize you had an accounting background, Cherie. Maybe I did, but like I have an accounting background.
I didn't really do much with it.
Yeah,
I went into banking, like in finance.
and banking. I worked in a bank as well, right? But you know what's interesting? I really think, like, because people used to say to me, oh, going from accounting or whatever to coaching is like they're completely different. And in my mind, they're just not, because there's like a structure around numbers and understanding what goes on that makes financial systems work. And it's the same, I find, with mindset. Do you see those same kind of parallels with like physiology and health?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think anything that happens in any microorganism can be scaled to, bigger complex systems. And there's such a link with everything. Even in finance or in insurance where I worked, we're still dealing with people and emotions and, making sure that we were meeting people's needs. It's just that
Yeah.
we've kind of zoomed in on one aspect of their life and we're talking about finance and insurance, but they're highly emotional topics.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true because you
Mm.
know what? I'm just thinking you're helping me connect dots, Sherry, because
So many dots.
yeah, there's so many dots. Because I did money coaching for a while, right? Which, because I was like, this is before I fully was full time in my business and I'd left the finance world, and this job come up as a money coach. I'm like, well, I got a background in money and I'm a coach. Seems like a match made in heaven. It wasn't. It was a job made in hell. But anyway,
We've
but
all had those.
yeah, but the thing for that was exactly what you were saying, was that I felt like they were doing a band-aid fix on people's problems. Like money was the symptom of their problems, not the actual cause of their problems. And so, it's going that into that deeper, like you said, into finding those, what's really going on at that deeper level that, we can resolve. So tell me, so from all that you've learned and all this study and experience, like I said at the start, the thing that we were talking about the other day that really fascinates me is breathing and definitely posture. And when I went back to the PT this year, I said to him, I'm like, I just want to improve my strength, my balance, and my posture because I'm quite aware of that. And I shared with you, I've been doing a little bit of breathing stuff, but let's talk about this, Sheree. Tell
Mm,
me, where
I
did the whole
know.
breathing thing and posture come into it as an
It's,
important part?
I think posture, obviously, from my connection with movement and, part of my studies, postures, how we hold ourselves and how we move is really important to health and well-being. And we can go into, that another time. But I think it was really, I mean, the other thing is personally is I'm a yogi, and
Oh,
it really all started with yoga practice and
yeah.
that. And I really like the philosophy side of yoga as well. So around I guess the traditional way of practicing yoga. So yoga means union, so it's like union with breath and us as one.
Mm,
And that was a key for me personally in turning around my health and well-being, and particularly my mental health. And it has gotten, for those, there may be some listeners out there who know me, they know I've got an incredibly challenging personal life as well as, just a complex life as it is. And it was that breath that and that connection to breath that, I'm like, wow, this is having a profound effect on me. Like, I want to know more, like you, I want to know more
Mm,
about this and how it's tied to our well-being. And
mm.
it was a different approach to what I'd learnt in terms of respiratory muscles and, how we breathe and diaphragmatic breathing in a sense of how that relates to exercise. And I started to explore how this actually can really influence our well-being. And then that really tied in with the chronic pain studies that I've done. So it was
Mm.
really essential to how we can connect in with our nervous system and really downregulate that. So again, it's quite complex and interwoven.
Yeah, and look, I think it sounds like there's a lot here, and I guess we can start from like my experience because of course selfishly I'm going to ask you questions of my
Well, it
interest.
was just, and that's what I do is I start these conversations and then I'm like, oh yes, that's great that you're doing that, but did you know this? I
Yeah.
can't help myself, and that's where our conversation started.
Yeah, well, I think interestingly for me, there's like a couple of areas of this. And so, like, how I got into my personal development journey was really because I needed a lot of personal development. And as I went along, like did a lot of the emotional clearing stuff and whatever. But it's even been in the last few years, and I think this just goes with growth as well. Like you realize that there's more layers. But like for me, my chronic, I'm exaggerating, but like was hypervigilance
Mm-hmm.
and social anxieties and all this kind of stuff. And I think I can't know, I can't tell with this top because it's a bit propped up anyway. But
Mm.
my massage therapist would always like notice my shoulders, yeah,
Yeah,
being
absolutely. Yeah.
up. And then I started becoming more aware of my breath and how much like I would breathe in my chest.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I started to, really try to focus on, correcting my posture and relaxing my shoulders and like you, I love yoga. So, I was doing a lot of yoga and that kind of stuff. But then, even just trying to get connection, even with like pelvic floor and that being, that system being connected with breathing and and I realized like with all of this, and I guess this goes into posture as well, that like my pelvis was tilted, like, and I'd always have this kind of curve in my spine and all that kind of stuff. So, and I'm showing this not just for my own benefit, yes, for my own benefit because I'm interested, but I'm sure it's like a common thing that you see with a lot of people. So, what can you talk to around that and how this fits in
Mm.
together, Cherie, from your
Yeah.
perspective?
I mean, that's great that you shared at your personal experience, because that is 100% what I see most of the time. I think our
Mm,
lifestyles today, we're seated a lot, with a lot of people are stressed. I know I'm making generalizations, but I generally don't find someone who is like living the, you might be living your best life, but it's a lot. And
mm,
it's like we exist from neck up, and we spend
yeah.
so much time in our minds and in our brains, and but we forget that we've got this body that we're connected to as well.
Mm,
um, and so I find the similar things like neck, jaw, like upper shoulder tension, shallow breathing. When we're stressed, we shallow breathe. When we're anxious, we shallow breathe. And I did say to you, remember, like, when you take a deep breath, you can see people's shoulders elevate, and
yeah.
that's using accessory muscles for breathing, not our main muscles for breathing. So that's not what they're designed to do. They're designed to help us when we really need it, but not
Mm,
how we should generate breath. And it's interesting as well that you mentioned pelvic floor as well, because
mm,
so what actually happens with breathing, if we can talk about that for a minute, is the diaphragm, that's that muscle that kind of sits, just below the rib cage. That, as we breathe in, that moves down to allow room for the lungs to expand. And as we do that, the pelvic floor should relax as well, because what we're doing is we're creating pressure changes within the
mm,
abdominal cavity. So, and generally you find that a lot of people have really to be honest, we sort of talk about pelvic floor and incontinence, but a lot of people have really tight pelvic floor muscles as well. So,
mm,
we don't have a lot of room for that diaphragm to go. And then, so how we generally compensate for that as well is we breathe upward and shallow. And what I was talking to you about, Tony, the other day is like, it's about recognizing how we can expand through the rib cage to allow this kind of sideways movement and expanding through when we take these deeper breaths, using the diaphragm, but also using expanding outward and expanding our rib cage and what we call the intercostal muscles that kind of flare up and allow that expansion of the ribs to then allow that pressure change. Because when we breathe in, that's a really active part of breathing, and then as we breathe out, that's a bit more of a passive breathing, and it's actually like just the pressure changes when we don't think about it that's causing that. So I guess that's a little bit of a brief, hopefully understandable anatomy and physiology of what's actually going on with the breath. And and because we, like I said, because of the stress and all the things that you've talked about, we generally don't use these muscles, which then has such a flow-on effect that influences our health.
Yeah, it is so super interesting because even when you were saying that to me, and you did, because you said like often it's helped with guided touch or whatever.
Yeah, sometimes we need that tactile.
Yeah, the tactile. Yeah, I literally had to concentrate on trying to work out how do my ribs expand
Yeah, yeah,
when I breathe.
yeah.
And I think, and I think, like you said, we're so used to being cut off from our body. And I think for me, that was the whole thing that I really didn't realize was just how cut off from my body that I was, especially in breathing. And even like, as you're talking about it, I'm sitting here practicing and like expanding, and I'm like, oh, it's like it's like I almost feel like I've got to stop bracing myself to
Yes.
breathe properly. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And this is, one of the things that happens when we consciously breathe is that we are activating our parasympathetic nervous system, if I can talk about parasympathetic and sympathetic, so fight, flight
Yeah.
response and our rest and repair, getting that sort of deeper breath starts to activate different pathways with the vagus nerve, which starts to downregulate our nervous system, which then impacts, things like heart rate and blood pressure, increases heart rate variability. I don't know whether you know much about that, and just improves our overall cellular health and health of our system. One of the things I've really studied a lot is there's a link between the nervous system and the endocrine system or hormones and
Yes.
the immune system. So they've kind of got what we call a NEI ensemble, so nervous system, endocrine, and immune system ensemble, and all of those things interact. So if we can interject on one of those pathways to sort of what we call sort of either dialing the system up or dialing the system down, the breath is one of the easiest ways to interject and start to dial this system down if we're finding that we're very upregulated. And I think that's the one thing that I love is that it's so accessible. It's not like you've got to go and do something. I mean, initially it is good to get some guidance around, what's happening for you, because this is also very individual. It's like, what's your day like? Yeah. What's your, mental health like? What's your posture like? There's so many factors that go into what's unique for that individual. But when we start to, use effective and efficient breath, it can really have a significant impact on our well-being and then productivity and then creativity. And all of a sudden we're just, expanding.
Yeah, it's super fascinating. And in fact, I think even the whole conversation now that's becoming more common around hormones. And in fact, the same day I saw you, that I was talking to someone else there that I know, and someone else had said something like mentioned that this guy had lost a bit of weight, right? And I didn't really know, I didn't pay that much attention, but he started sharing about, oh yeah, it's this problem that I've got where I've had it a couple of times and I've got rid of it, but I've had a brain tumor from being in too much stress. And when I get that brain tumor, my testosterone drops and then I put on all this weight. And so he's like, it's not, you can't just diet and exercise out of it. He's like, and it's been in times of chronic stress of different things that have happened in business or whatever.
Yeah.
And then he's had to get that in check, and then the brain tumor goes around, and then he can get his hormones back into
Yeah.
balance and stuff like that. But it's just incredible. I think, we talk about the effects that stress have and everything else, but I think, yeah, like you were saying, that whole kind of system with the the endocrine, the what else did you
The
say?
nervous system, the endocrine system or hormones, and the
Yeah,
immune system. Because that's
and
the
the
other
immune
thing.
system.
When we're in the states that you're talking about, we've really got increased inflammation, and we know that now.
Mm,
So we've got, dysregulated hormones. We've got an upregulated nervous system that's probably, and again, I don't want to go too much into sympathetic and parasympathetic, but we're probably spending too much time in sympathetic. And then we've got
mm,
this increased inflammation. And it's like, well, this is the one thing that, I work with my clients on is like, what's the most accessible route for you to start making some, really easy changes? And again, what I call what's the low hanging fruit? Like, where's our bang for buck? Because I love efficiency. I want things to be,
mm.
as efficient, as effective as possible. And it's like we can do this now. You can do it at the traffic lights. You can do it at your desk. You can just, all it takes is for you to be consciously aware of your breathing and connect in with your body and your breath. It can be
Mm,
2 minutes, sorry, not even 2 minutes. Like, it's like a couple of seconds.
yes.
And it's just taking that awareness. And
Yeah.
it has such a profound impact on our whole system. And like I said, then it has that flow on effect. So, I guess the things that we need to be mindful of is our posture. And you were talking about your shoulders, and I see so many people focusing on pulling their shoulders back. I mean, probably around my era is like we're always told, pull your shoulders back.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, how about we lift the sternum and
Yeah.
relax our shoulders? Like,
Yeah.
so key. But then what happens then is if we lift up too much, we can flare our ribs out. And so then it's just a little tuck of the ribs and the hips together. So if you lift up and then kind of tuck everything in together, and then you imagine that there's a string pulling your head from the middle of your head, pulling you up to the ceiling, and we just get this expansion. And I don't know
Yeah.
if you're aware of Amy Cuddy's work on that in terms of mood follows posture.
I know the name, but it was interesting
Yeah.
because when you were talking about that, I was thinking about it even from like an NLP background.
Mm,
We talk about how your physiology affects your state
mm,
because it's very hard
yeah.
to like be really happy if you're like looking down and like
Yeah.
punched in, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but if you think about a breathing perspective, we're actually like really closing in that front of the um, chest cavity. So,
Mm,
we want to be able to expand,
yeah.
for that posture as well. And then don't get me started on all the muscles that are affected because we'll go down another rabbit hole. We'll stick on the
Yeah.
breathing.
Yeah.
But one thing I also wanted to mention, which we didn't talk about, is nose breathing. So I don't know if you've done any work on nose and mouth.
Yes.
Absolute key is breathing through the nose. So again, what I find with stressed, people who are doing too many things and maybe not, like I said, they're achieving a lot, but they're not enjoying what they're achieving, or they're feeling tired, or, there's a whole range of symptoms. And it's like we're anxious, we're chest breathing, but we're mouth breathing as well, which
Yeah,
has,
that is definitely something that I got onto because
mm,
I used to get a lot of sinusitis, usually like back in the day when I was smoking, which wasn't a great thing. But I used to always think, oh, I can't breathe properly through my nose, which is probably something else. I don't have dairy anymore and stuff like that. But
again, many factors.
yeah, it could be
Mm,
many factors exactly. But I think since I'm more conscious about breathing through my nose, I have less problems with my nose anyway.
yeah.
Yeah,
We
which is
generally
good.
find that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you know what's interesting? I was just thinking this before because one of the other things that I do, like I notice, like my hips are generally a bit tight, which is part of this thing. But even when
Mm-hmm.
I'm out walking, because I go out walking every day, and when I'm walking, I think about my breathing and all this kind of stuff. But even if I just have the intention of my pelvis being more open, it's like my posture changes, like, and it feels more energizing. Like I feel more, yeah, just in good posture.
Yeah.
So it's like, can you talk about that? Like that, even just like, because what I do, I don't know if this is a real thing, but this is what I
Mm.
do. I just like sit, I imagine I like open like my pelvis, if that makes sense. And it just like I feel like there's a shift that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just that you're thinking about your pelvis, one thing.
Mm,
So we know that we need to connect. You're connecting with your body in essence.
mm,
And there are, like I said, neural pathways to different body parts. And this can
mm,
work for us or against us. So if we've got an issue with an area and we're constantly thinking about an area, we're always sending signals there, which can actually influence
yeah,
our
Yeah, if you're sending
experience
signals there's a
of
problem.
pain.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the other side to it is what I do with a lot of movement based practice that I do is actually let's tune into that area and connect with it and connect with like, well, what's going on when I do this movement? What's going on when I walk? What happens if I just shift that slightly? And because
Mm,
we're all unique individuals and we're all experiencing our body in our own way.
yeah.
And it's that neural connection that we're getting that is then giving you that sense of openness and spaciousness because you're creating it. And again, it's those pathways that are going from the muscles and the area that you're from the muscles up to the brain, but then also the brain is then connecting with the muscles. So there's like these two-way pathways.
Yeah.
Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. It makes perfect sense. And I just it blows my mind really, like when you think about these things, because I mean, I guess now I feel like I'm blessed because of the work I've done over the last 10 years. I've been around a lot of like health and well-being type people, which has been brilliant for my own like knowledge and understanding. And I think, before then there was so much stuff that was I was just totally oblivious about, just was completely not in my awareness. So, I mean, I guess that leads on to my next question, Cherie, is like, what would someone be experiencing that they're like, oh, I need to go and see you?
That's a really good question. People come for many different reasons and have many different starting points. So I see individuals who are experiencing chronic pain. So I'm not really your acute type of, if something's just sort of happening, I mean, it's fine. I can see you, but, you can maybe go to your physio or something if it's just a short-term thing. It's people that have long-term issues for me,
Mm,
long-term pain, musculoskeletal pain, joint pain, chronic illnesses, invisible illnesses. So that's one section of the people that because I work a lot with GPs and doctors in invisible illness, things like chronic fatigue syndrome, POTS, endometriosis. I do a lot of work with endometriosis at the moment in conjunction with Thrive Family Practice, and we do have little plug here for our Endo Untangled podcast.
oh, yeah.
Again, just trying to get
I'll
the
put the link in the notes. Give me the link.
right information out there. So
Yeah.
that's sort of one section of what I do. The other thing I've been doing recently is running, I guess we sort of label it self-care workshops for businesses, and where I've been going in and working with directors and CEOs of businesses and really delving into what real well-being is and self-care is for staff to get sort of that cohesive environment. And these are really progressive, unique individuals that see the value in valuing their staff, not only from a professional level, but from a personal level. And
Mm,
this is one of my mottos is like personal well-being equals professional and life well-being. Like
yeah.
we can't separate anything. So I do see a lot of people with burnout, with stress and mental health issues as well.
Yeah.
And it really is that, if you're not achieving what you want in life, if you're having physical symptoms, if you're having mental and emotional symptoms, or if you're just tired, there's really easy physiological ways that we can, like I said, sort of interrupt these pathways where we can get some really good wins on the board. I also collaborate with a lot of other practitioners, physios, coaches, where because we have such a different, I just believe that there's not one person, depending on the extent of the issue.
Mm,
You have a team.
yeah.
Everyone comes at it from a different perspective, and I find, do you know what? I haven't come across anyone yet. Usually, someone will say, "Oh, yeah, I've done a bit of breath work," and they've generally done some box breathing or something like that. But no one has ever really assessed their breathing, and I'm still astounded. And I really want to get the message out that have a look yourself or get someone to kind of assess, like, what's your breathing pattern like? Can you expand through this rib cage? Do you know how the breath can actually impact your wellness and well-being?
Mm,
Also your movement, also your posture, and then also the other lifestyle factors. So I kind of work on the pillars of health loosely, but it's really about taking in all of that information and then working on a plan together, because it can be overwhelming, I think, as well. But I think for me, the right people really want to have a look at the picture as a whole, because otherwise you don't have all the information. It's like I say, if you're going to go somewhere and you need to put directions in Google Maps, we need to know where we're starting from.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry,
It
that was
is.
probably a long-winded way of explaining. I think because I do a lot of things.
Yeah, no, but it's really fascinating. I'm here like tuned right in. I love it. And I was just thinking as you were talking about that like everybody knows, like because you talk about what do we need to live? And like I remember hearing once that no one ever dies from disease. They die from lack of energy. Like you run out of
Yeah.
energy, and essentially that's how you'll stop living. But everyone knows it's like, oh, you've got to, you can probably live, I don't know, what is it, 40, 50 days or whatever without food. And you can probably live like, I don't know, a couple days without water or whatever. I don't know how long it is. There's people that reckon they do random crazy stuff without drinking water. But how long can you go without air is what, like a minute at the most.
Yeah.
And um and and thinking about that, why isn't there more how important breathing is? Why isn't there
I
more
know.
like information and
Oh,
education and awareness about the importance of breathing? Because everyone just goes, oh yeah, of
don't
course I
even
know how
get
to
me
breathe.
started. I know, and I think that's the thing. Everyone's like, "Oh, well, I'm breathing now," and it's like, "Well, ha ha ha, how well are you?" But also, like with doctors, they take your blood pressure and they take your heart rate and they might check your oxygen levels, but not, unless you've got a problem with breathing. But no one's checking your breathing rate as well. And
Mm,
some of these, and this is a problem sometimes we have with normative data, is that normative data is based on population based. So we've got an average number of breaths that we should be taking per minute, which is around 14 to 17, around that. But that's based
okay.
on average people, which we're all almost hyperventilating anyway. Where really we should be taking around 6 to 10.
Yeah,
And
is that the average of a healthy person or is that the average
well,
of
there's some theories around what it should be, but the
what it
more that
should
we
be? Yeah.
can, the more that we can kind of reduce that, and again, because we're going to get more oxygen flow, we're going to get a more efficient system, and again, breathing through the nose. I think don't quote me on it, but I think it's around you get 20% more oxygen breathing through the nose, and
Mm,
we also want to when we're hyperventilating or when we're chest breathing, we're adding stress to the body. So we're already adding stress to a stress body, and we're sort of
mm,
saying we're not okay. We're on, like you're saying, we're hyper vigilant. We're like ready to, pounce. Like we're in this chest breathing mode. And
mm.
even when we're sitting, concentrating, we're still concentrating. We're in our head. We've got this upregulated system. And again, I could talk about this for days and go into the nitty gritty of it. But
Mm,
it's just more like, can we? And we know, the most important thing is when you stop and consciously relax your body and consciously take a deep breath, even if it's just with the diaphragm without even thinking about the ribs. Like, I've never had anyone say, oh, that doesn't feel good. Like, we know it feels better. We can
mm,
feel, and what it is it's tapping into. So when we're in the fight and flight, we're in the amygdala, and it's diverting blood flow from our thinking brain. So when we're activating that vagus nerve and we're down regulating the system, it's telling our whole physiological system we're okay, and then that allows more blood flow to go back to the front brain, and then that's when we can be inspired and creative and energize their system, and then hopefully get to the end of the day and realize we've got more energy, we've been more productive, we've had better conversations, we've been able to problem solve. It has this huge flow and effect,
mm.
and that's just from breathing.
The breathing properly makes you smarter.
Breathing, there's a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Breathing properly makes you smarter. And then if we can add breathing into, and look, don't get me wrong, like you were saying, like food and nutrition and diet and movement are so, like, they are pillars of health. But I
Mm,
think we've been a bit skewed and a bit hyper focused on things where, and don't get me started on sleep, but sleep and breathing, but I think that's the thing, like, we are breathing, we have this energy, this energy
mm.
force and this vital force that flows through us, and we do just take it for granted. And I think I had a mentor of mine say, the breath is there for us in every moment, and all it expects in return is for us to notice in return.
Mm.
And I'm like, that's so beautiful. Like,
Yeah, that's powerful, isn't it? It's like I often think about these things, Cherie, because, you know, like you're saying, the food and the nutrition and, breathing and all these kinds of things. Yeah, we live in a society that seems to want to like go the opposite way in so many, there's a whole conversation there that I probably won't touch right now, but
there's so many rabbit holes we could have gone down.
yeah. Yeah, but I think the thing is at the end of the day that you just have to be empowered to take charge of yourself because regardless of what you find in the mainstream, whatever, you always have a choice. You always have a choice to educate yourself, to find out, to do something different. And I think that's the kind of thinking that people really need to adopt rather than expect to be spoon-fed everything that's perfect for you. And
Oh, absolutely.
yeah.
That perfection doesn't exist, like just move forward, take one step forward. You're right, like try things. Don't be scared to make mistakes. And I think it's, a starting point is that, learning to make sure that because a lot of people aren't even now, because you are able to diaphragm and breathe with your diaphragm, but a lot of people can't even you do that sensation of that deeper breath with the diaphragm, let alone rib cage breathing or things like that. So we really do need someone to help guide us with that. And there might be people actually, just to mention, I'm not sure how we're going in time, but there are a lot of breath work experiences that you can have as well. But I just want to sort of preface that I'm not really talking about that. I'm talking about what we do every day. And look, they're cool and you can have really cool experiences, and they are, I think there's studies to show that, things like the Wim Hof and the holotrophic breathing, have their place and benefits, but it's a lot of extra stuff to think about. And I don't know if you've had those experiences too.
I have.
Yeah.
And in fact, a good friend of mine runs breathwork things, and it is like it's definitely not like a daily activity.
No, I think they promote it that you can and stuff, but it's just like there's so much technique involved, and it's very
technique. But the ones that I had was like it activated the like DMT or whatever in the brain. I was like felt like I was tripping off my head for about
absolutely, and that can be dangerous for some people. You know what I mean? So you've kind of got to be like a little bit careful with that, but also
I think there was a lot of value in it, but I wouldn't say it's
so
a
much value.
for...
And I think that there's there is some science and things around it does upregulate, but then it downregulates. But it's not something that I've really sort of delved into. But I think that we just have to do what's accessible. And let's get a foundation going to start with. And I think one key factor that I haven't mentioned is the more that we can lengthen the exhale as well. It is
actually
better
breathing out properly.
So like you can take a count in of 3 and then pause for a bit, and then but just lengthen that exhale through the nose, in and out through the nose, because there's some science. And look, and I love I've forgotten his name. He wrote Breathe. Is it James Nestor? I think it's James Nestor. Anyway, there's a book that I'll give you the link to as well, which has all the sort of science, and he's amazing at this sort of stuff. But the thing is that, and again, I hope I'm not getting too sciencey, we don't actually breathe to get more oxygen. We actually breathe to get rid of carbon dioxide.
Oh.
Yeah, and it has to do with so many different things, but also like our acid base, like pH balance in the blood and things like that as well. And so there's a school of thought that the more that we can be either exhaling or holding our breath, again, the better that is for our physiological system as a whole. It's really interesting concepts. So that's where you do get those different breathing techniques where you're, like I said, breathing in for some, but then really lengthening that exhale. But I think, to begin with, just be conscious of your breathing. Can you just notice it? Notice what you're doing.
Actually on that, Cherie, I was watching something the other day that was talking about, I think it was talking about fat loss actually. And where do you think, like, if you burn off fat, like it's not like it just disappears. It's like, and people go, oh, well, it comes out, whatever through your other excretions, whatever. But they were saying that a lot of it is in the carbon dioxide that you breathe out.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I'm going to start breathing for that.
I just find our physiology, like our bodies, I just find them fascinating. And the more, it's funny, like the more you research, like I think I get imposter syndrome sometimes because the more I delve into it, the less I think I know.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think that's just that being open to learning, right? I think that's the important thing is always, I learn a lot of things, but I'm always open to finding out that what I know is wrong.
Mm.
Not in a
Yeah, well, not wrong, but it's
terrible
like
way,
that,
but
facts.
like there's something else.
Yeah, like facts have a half life. I always tell my people when I'm running workshops, like, can we just hold our beliefs lightly? Like, let's
Yeah.
hold them lightly. And the question I always ask all my people is it working for you?
Yeah.
If what you're doing is working for you, then okay, great. But, can we optimize it? And, they're generally, when people are coming to see me, it's not working for them. So,
Yeah.
like, can we try something different if we've identified these things? And again, I think I come from a place of, let's build a foundation. Let's not try, like, I guess it's that, analogy of, like, you've got a crap diet, but you go and buy superfoods to put on top of it.
Yeah.
Like, can we just get the basics right and see what happens? Then
Yeah.
we can keep building on it. And, and I don't know about your people that you work with, but what I see, the other thing too, is we've developed these personas in society where we have such a high tolerance for cognitive load. So we're like, I see people who are like, oh, I don't think I'm really, I'm busy, but everything's fine. And it's like, yeah, but your body is telling you a different story. Like, you are
Yeah.
cognitively okay to cope with this and feeling mentally like, I'm not too bad, but
Yeah.
it's just that you've got this high tolerance and you've got this physiological and mechanical stress that, you're not going to recognize until we're further down the pathway. And can we really sort of check in with ourselves and what's really going on before we get to that point?
Cherie, I'm so glad you brought that up because I can put two hands up for that. That's one of the things that I realized, and I think it come from a bit of childhood, you know. I learned resilience
Yeah.
as a child, and I definitely that's the thing that I recognize, and I think why I started taking my health seriously when I turned 40. I'm now 50, but like really started taking my health seriously at 40 was because I started realizing that like I've always been pretty healthy. I'm lucky I haven't had a lot of chronic health things, but at the same time, I remember getting having iridology once, and they said something about my eyes. I can't remember what it was, but it was a sign that you will feel fine and you won't notice that there's things going on underneath. And I'm like, oh, wow, that sounds like me. And
Yeah.
it wasn't until I can tell you when I did start having problems, and that was, when that big thing happened and everything was shut down. I
Mm.
couldn't go to the gym. Well, before that, I was going to the gym, and I was a cardio junkie, and my gym gave out these heart rate monitors, and I would be I was addicted to smashing it in the red. And then the gym was shut, so I started doing Mount Lofty, and I'd go and do Mount Lofty in the morning on like coffee, and I'd come back and then I would be like so drained
Yeah, of course you would have been.
for like an hour or two just sitting on the couch going, oh my God, like, but not like oh, I'm a bit worn out from exercise, but like I'm depleted.
Yeah.
And yeah, I went to a naturopath and she said, yeah, you've got adrenal fatigue. And it was just a combination of like, I was working a lot, obviously in my business, and plus just smashing out all this cardio and not eating, like fueling myself properly.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
and like I didn't have a lot of, like, I've never had massive weight problems, but I
Mm.
couldn't lose fat and I couldn't gain muscle.
I'm not surprised. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, because of the stress that you're putting on your system and then releasing cortisol, which then promotes,
yeah.
fat storage.
Yeah.
But
And so,
also
but that
just,
was the thing. It was like it
yeah.
had to get to that point where I'm just literally going, oh no, I'm crashed on the couch for a couple of
Yeah.
hours at 10 o'clock in the
I
morning
know.
to go, oh, actually, maybe there's something wrong.
Yeah. But there would have been, I think that's the thing though, is that there would have been signs early on that we're not listening to. And if we can catch those, or if we can have a think about how do I want to live my life?
Yeah. Well,
Like,
even
yes,
just recognizing what's not normal. Like, I
yes.
think I
Oh,
was just
that's a
in
big
such a
one.
common state of stress and anxiety
Yeah.
that I had it all my whole life that I just
Yeah.
didn't realize it wasn't normal.
It's normal, and it becomes normal for you. You're right, given from what you've alluded to with your experience, and that's what happens with some of our growing up and interactions that we have with the world. But we've also got, I think, a societal problem where you almost glorify stress and busyness, and wow, look at it, all they're achieving and achieving. It's like, but really, and I listen to people who have inverted commas made it, and they're so empty and exhausted And it's like, yeah,
Mm,
but on paper they're so successful. And it's like,
yes.
I don't know, what are we doing here?
It's a common story that I've seen in successful people actually, where they go, oh, well, um, I'm good at what I did, and then I got really good at, making money, but then like my health suffered, and so
Yeah,
then I had to get really good at health, and like
yeah,
it's that kind of elevation that people don't realize until, something's
yeah.
right.
And then I guess if I segue back to the breath though, that is one of the easiest ways to come back to the present moment, to
Mm,
get out of our mind, because that's the other thing, we're never present really. I mean, I'm generalizing, but how often are we actually, taking in that present moment?
yeah.
And just being able to consciously take a breath and notice that breath, it can stop those cycles, and then we can connect with the present moment. And can we just check in with our body, like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think that that's probably why, like I said, I started taking my health seriously when I turned 40. But I think then when even in the last few years, that's kind of more evolved. And when I turned 50 this year, it was like something switched in my mind that I was just like, do you know what? I've worked hard enough. Like it kind of transitioned, but then I was just like,
Mm,
yeah, it's okay for me to have like, don't start seeing clients before 10 o'clock in the morning and to not work past 6 o'clock at night and to, contain how much access people have to me and, to take more time off and set my business up in that way and all of those kinds of things it like I don't know what it was, maybe some kind of conditioning that I had as a child that once you're 50 it's allowed to be easier. I'm not sure, but I think that's the thing, is just having more like awareness for people
yeah.
around what is normal. And I had actually on that, I had a really good conversation last night with a guy who was telling me about his wife has just retired, and I don't know how old they are. I'm guessing around 60, whatever. Um, but he said she was like going, oh, well, I guess I better be picking up more stuff around the house now that I'm retired. And he's just like, no, like we agreed you retired. We didn't agree that you were going to do more stuff. Like we've always shared the rest of the house and all that stuff. So that will continue. You're just retired. And I thought that is so beautiful because, I think this is seeing these healthy examples of even what men contribute to the expectations makes a big difference.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, and I talk a lot about people making up their own rules. Like
Mm,
we've kind of been programmed and indoctrinated on this is what we should do, whether that's come from, parents, peers, society, cultural. We just don't realize how much of that is going against who we really are. And I think you're
mm,
right. I think some of that does just come with age. I think as you
mm.
start to get older, you start to going, hang on a minute. Um, this isn't really working for me anymore, and I'd rather be doing this. And then you can almost have that permission to do it.
Mm,
But it's like we can give ourselves permission at any time
yeah,
to connect in. But it does
yeah,
come back to that. I know, and I'm like banging on about it, but it does come back to our physiological state to create that space where we can actually have these thoughts and connect with ourselves. So when
yes,
we're in that state of like, oh, yeah, I'll get to that, and I might just do some like, quick breath. I might just do yoga, but there's so many people that I know that do yoga, and I'm like, okay, well, show me how you practice it, and I'm like, oh my goodness, yeah, like not. It sounded very judgy, but it's just more like, wow, like that's not yoga, like that's doing poses, and that's great for your strength and mobility, but it's just you just again on this cycle of doing.
yes. It is next level yoga to sink your breath into the actual
It's so easy to
thing.
get there, though. I think it's just, and again, it's really hard. I think yoga teachers are amazing. I love them. They're my favorite people in the world, but it's really difficult in the class to get around to everyone. So I would really
Mm,
encourage people, if they do go to a yoga studio, see if they offer one-on-ones, because it's so worth it to just and that's what I do. I do sort of yoga tune-ups with people as well. So where you can
oh,
come
that's
and,
amazing.
yeah, where you can come and go, okay, let's have a look at how you do this, and let's slow everything down, and let's work on the breathing first, so that then you can, that's probably the next step which is what I do, is then go, okay, we've got the breathing going, now can we coordinate breath and movement to take it to the
Yes.
next level. So there's obviously levels and entry points for all things.
Yeah, yeah. So it's so fascinating, Cherie. I'm so grateful for you coming on
Oh,
today. And I like
thank you.
There are a couple other questions that I want to ask you though,
Sure.
because I know there'll be people listening to this that are going to go, wow, I've got so much value out of it, including
I
me
hope
when I
so.
listen back.
Yeah.
Um, but also there's a lot of business owners that listen, and I think, I'd love to know. I'm always interested in, being real about business and what's the number one, I guess, most challenging thing you found about business and the number one most rewarding thing?
For me personally,
Yeah.
ah, that's a really good question. I think for me, the challenge, look, I'm going to be really vulnerable here. And I think the challenge for me has been to be really me, to be authentically me,
Mm,
and I'm only just starting to do this. So I'm not, I'm unashamedly coming out now.
mm.
Um, because
Your safe
that's,
space.
it's, yeah, I've dimmed my light, for fear of judgment, for fear of, persecution. I'm recently, oh, not recently, but late diagnosed autistic ADHD. And,
Mm,
there's things that come along with that, but that has allowed me to really embrace who I am. And now I'm actually, finding the right people to actually work with. Whereas before, I I struggled in the wrong circles, to be honest. And I was
mm.
trying to, and the number one thing that I've learned is that I was trying to help people that didn't want help. They
Yeah.
thought they wanted help.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure you've come across them as well. But then I
Yeah.
felt like it was my fault. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, and, it's taken me a while to realize actually that wasn't anything to do with me.
I think that's such a good
Mm.
point, Cherie, because understanding who your ideal client actually um, is there's so much more into it other than, oh, it's Mary with this condition that da da
Oh,
da da.
yeah, absolutely. Not at all. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's just being able to be, unapologetically yourself in all,
Yes.
and I think that there's some freedom with that. But I also think that that makes you such a better, practitioner, employee, whatever it is.
Yes.
And I think that there's a lot of, even if we're not just talking neurodivergence, but I think there's so much of us that do have these personas and masking, and it's, I just think it gets
Mm,
in the way of real connection with ourselves and with others and with outcomes that we want to live our best lives.
yeah.
So that's been my challenge, but I'm really working on that. Um, and the rewarding bit is incredible. I think I've had, it actually makes me well up. Like, especially the people in pain, that we do some really simple things and get really, I love it when there's immediate results. That's
Mm,
what I love. Like, sometimes you can just look at someone's posture, we can change a few things, and they've had chronic, back pain forever, and we've just changed how they've stood and breathed. Sometimes, and
mm.
we get immediate results, and I think that that is the most rewarding thing in my job. And also, as you know, like those light bulb moments where we unpack a whole lot of things, connect all the dots, and the fact that I can make a difference in someone's life is what gets me up in the morning. Yeah, being able to, I guess, research and learn and apply all the things that I love. I think it's selfish in a way, but
Well,
the fact
yeah,
that
but
it then
it's
helps
interesting,
others,
isn't it?
yeah,
I think that's the key thing is that, like you're saying, is being your true self, being your authentic self. I think we all have to get that understanding that we are we're not here by accident. We're not
mm,
how we are naturally by accident. We're here to serve a purpose. And I think that the truer we can be that, then the better work that we're going to do in the world for the people that need us how we are.
absolutely. And it's got to be. And I think my philosophy is win-win. Like, everyone needs to be winning. And I think that
Yeah.
I spent a long time trying so hard, and and in the end, like, most people got the results that they wanted, but I was losing, because I had
Yeah.
to work so hard for it. And I'm just like, you know what,
Yeah.
I'm not for everyone, and that's okay, because their person is, just around the corner. So
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. I'm definitely focused on I had this epiphany the other day when I was doing my walk, that I'm like, oh, I get it. I want to be having more fun in
yes,
2026. That
yes,
I'm whatever I'm doing, running my business, making money, whatever,
yeah,
it's actually fun because I know I'm better value when I'm having fun.
Absolutely. Like my girls, I've got 18 and 16-year-olds, and to that statement, they would have been like, yes, queen.
Yeah. I am a queenager. I'm
Oh, everyone's a
apparently
queen.
this is a thing when you turn 50, you're a queenager.
A
Like,
queenager. I'm going to
yeah,
tell them that, but
it's like,
they've taught me so many things.
yeah, it's like I heard this other thing. It's like I'm now in the I'm the young people of the old. I'm the youngest of the old people or
Mm,
something, rather than
mm.
being the oldest of the young people.
I
I'm like, I
love.
don't care.
Oh my
I'm
gosh, I
just,
love that. And I
yeah.
also saw the other day. I saw this meme the other day that said, like something about being like I'm a 35-year-old, like born in 1975, and people keep thinking I'm 50. I'm
Yes,
like,
yes.
yeah.
I've seen that as well. And it's like,
Mhm.
what do you mean 1990 was like
Stop.
35 years ago?
Stop. Look, I think it's a privilege, and I actually I love and hate this age. I think it's been incredibly difficult for me. I've navigated like perimenopause and menopause,
Mm,
and come out the other side, thankfully. And that's another topic that I love and am passionate about, particularly with movement and all the stress and things. But
oh,
like, and then you just go, wow, what a privilege to have this, the wisdom that comes with age and
yeah,
experience, and really enjoying this part of it, even though it's
I love it.
yeah, me too.
I reckon it's my favorite part of time of life
I
that
think
I've
I'm
had.
coming into it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
2026, look out. We
2026, absolutely.
more fun,
Well,
more breathing, like
oh,
more breathing and
absolutely.
moving.
All of those things, yes to that. And so, we probably should start wrapping up because I
Yes.
know I will just keep asking you questions.
Oh,
And maybe I'll have to have you on another
and
time.
I'll keep answering them
You'll
as
keep answering, yeah.
well.
Which I love about you as well.
Mm.
But if people are thinking about, you know what, there's something that's resonated, what's the
Mm-hmm.
best way? Like, can they just reach out to you? Obviously, I'll put all your details in the show
Yeah,
notes.
they can. I'll send you the links to social media.
Yeah.
I'm in the process of getting my website back up and running, so that's to come. So that'll be there. But you can contact me directly. My email's pretty easy. It's hello@cherienoble.com.au. Email's good. Or
Yeah.
just message her,
And they
and
can literally just
Instagram.
email you and go, look, this is
Yeah, say hey.
going on.
I heard you on this amazing podcast that Tony does, and yeah, please reach out. We can have a conversation and then take it from there. But the thing
Yeah.
I do say, I get this question a lot. If you don't mind me answering it, is
Yeah.
um, I've got all these things. Like, what's what's this going to look like? How does this, the way that I work is, even if you come for an initial assessment, like, invest in yourself. It takes about an hour. I may not never see you again, because we might uncover all the things you need in an initial assessment, and you've got the answers, and you go, beautiful. We'll take it from there. Once
Mm.
we have that information, we then make a plan together of what the next appointment looks like. So I think I've moved away from saying, oh, it's going to be 4 sessions, or I do a package of this. Like, I just don't do that anymore, because everyone is so unique and so individual. So I guess for everyone listening out there, it's just, if this is resonating, if what I'm saying with you is resonating, then, reach out if you've got any questions. But, realistically, just come and have an initial assessment, and then we can take it from there.
Beautiful. And where are you based, Cherie?
I'm at Lower Mitcham.
Oh, Mitcham. All right, beautiful.
Yep, but the other thing too is, if that's too far, I can do telehealth as well.
Oh,
Yeah,
perfect.
especially for an initial, because a lot of it is like information gathering, and we can see some things on video and stuff like that. I mean, it's it's not ideal, but it's probably 80% there, and
Yeah, yeah.
then we can make a plan from there.
That's excellent. I love all of that. Like I said,
One
all
more
the
thing,
details.
sorry, you can also, if we're doing a the movement and going down that road, is that private health rebates apply as well.
Oh, great. Even better. I'll put all those details in the show notes, of course, for people. If you have any trouble trying to find it, contact me personally. I'll hook you up with Cherie, no problems. And so my final question, Cherie, as we've kind of touched on this, but I always like to ask people because, sometimes we can get so involved in what it is that we do professionally, but what do you do for fun?
Oh my gosh, what do I do for fun? Well, yoga, obviously. I'm
Yeah.
obsessed. I love it. Um, I love coffee.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, good coffee. good coffee. I think I'm boring, and I actually just like movement-based stuff. So it is about yoga and lifting, and I'm just a super nerd. So I also like listening to podcasts, researching. But from a more interesting perspective, I do love a good Netflix, or not Netflix, like a streaming service binge. So like my family and I generally will pick a show and when we'll just, watch it together.
What's been your favorite recently?
Oh my gosh, I've had so many. We're back on Stranger Things because I've got teenagers.
Well, yeah, my daughter tried to get me into that. It was too scary for me.
It is a little bit
It
scary,
put me on
but
edge.
but so many, like, yeah, we generally like, that's how our sort of downtime. But I like a bit of trash. I was a Grey's Anatomy. I was a Grey's Anatomy fan in the day, and but do you know what? I don't have a particular genre because I really
Like
love
the variety.
shows. Like, yeah, I really like Breaking Bad, which is something I didn't like. Do you know what it is? I like good story, good character development, relationships, arcs. Everything I do has to have this in-depth feel about it.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, there's some great series out there, but I love all that.
Do you
That's
watch?
brilliant.
Do you watch anything?
Well, yes. So my partner works away. So when
Mm.
he's home, we usually have one kind of series that we only watch when we're together.
Oh, I love
So
that.
we did watch Vikings, which was it was a little bit violent, but it was actually, like you're saying, really interesting kind of story arcs through the generations of these Vikings and stuff.
Yep.
And then we watched The Witcher. We've watched Wednesday recently. Wednesday was pretty good.
Yeah, right. Those
Yeah.
other two sound quite intense for what you were saying.
Well, yeah, they're the ones that I
Yeah.
work
I
like.
did like Yellowstone, actually. Yellowstone
Oh,
was good.
yeah, actually, I've got to get onto that one. I've seen some shorts for it, and I'm like, oh, that looks interesting. But
Yeah.
I've watched all kinds of weird stuff like The Crown and I don't know, Bridgerton. I smashed
Oh,
through.
yeah, I watched that with the girls. Oh my gosh, that was hilarious.
Yeah, my
Watching
daughter
that with
loves.
teenagers.
What does my daughter love? She likes Stranger Things, but like I said, I found that little
I
bit
think
difficult.
yeah, but it's the 80s connection.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm
but
a bit of a
I don't
Hopper
know. There's
fan.
always something.
I know. It's good. You know what? It's a good escapism, but I also think that you learn through stories. I think entertainment
Yes.
is really undervalued in the benefits that it has. But then I'm going down another rabbit hole, so we'll
The
hang
rabbit
up.
holes. I should
I
have
do
another
that.
series called The Rabbit Hole. And that would be interesting. But Cherie, look, thank you again. I
Oh,
really
thank
appreciated
you.
this conversation. And like I said, it was a pretty quick turnaround. I saw you 2 days ago and I'm like, Pam, can you be a guest? And you're like, yes. And it all turned
Yes.
out.
I know. As you can tell, I love talking about the subjects that I'm obsessed with. So thank you
Yeah.
so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to talk to you. And, you're such an inspiring businesswoman and person. So thank you so much. It's been such a privilege.
Oh, thank you, Cherie. This is the part where you're pretending like you're the interviewer again. We were just
I
talking about how you've
know.
got your own podcast. But I love that because I'm like, oh, thanks. I feel great.
It's all true. It's all true. Yes, I know. I did. I feel okay. I did say at the start, Tony, that I was going to struggle not being the interviewer.
Yeah, you did a good job. You did
Thank you.
amazing, and the compliments at the end were great. So we'll wrap it up
Awesome.
now. Thanks,
Thank you.
Marie.
Thanks so much. See ya.